Okay, Israel, hope everybody is doing well today. We're back at it again. Shout out Kawakab and his congregation in Guatemala and the different states from Cali to Georgia. Hope y'all are doing well today. Also, shout out SOW Virginia, Kazakia, Houston, Quatazop, Slovakia, and Zion and Rochester. Hope y'all brothers are doing well. Your congregations, your families. Hope everybody's doing well. It's going to be great to see y'all in a few weeks. Passover's coming up. April 12th is the official date of the Passover. The start, I should say, and sundown. And we're going to be having our second Passover a little earlier than the month allotted. It's going to be May 4th, which is a Sunday. We'll have our Passover for those who can't make the trip up to Rochester. Once again, it's Shark Week, y'all. We're out here on marriages, women being in order, husbands, that whole shebang. I think it's important. Every time I'm close to finishing, there's more that comes out. So for the sake of the young sisters and the young brothers and the young families that are starting to come together or possibly come together, it's important that we have these classes. We finish these out. Hopefully it's today, but maybe we might have one more day, maybe next Monday for class on this topic. The title of the class is Why Many Israelite Marriages Fail. So I know the last 3 or 4 weeks was about a wife's obedience and a wife's humility, and we're going to still be on that topic to some degree. We want to kind of open up and expand the thinking and expand how things kind of fall apart, so that as husbands and wives, we can kind of be aware of what to stay on top of in ourselves so that these marriages can actually work. Okay? Because if people think it's just about the fact that we agree in the scriptures and we agree about what tribe we are and we can say some Lashwan Kodash, listen, man, it's way more to this. And there's a lot of sickness in the brotherhood of Israel and in the household of Israel that needs to get brought out. And the reason we bring it out, now a lot of times people think that our classes are ultra negative. But if you don't bring out and expose the negative, how do you fix the issues and actually have a better productive Israelite culture, community, brotherhood, and sisterhood, and husbands and wives? So this is why we kind of deep dive like we do. So in hopes that people can learn and make the proper adjustments in their relationships with their loved ones. So the first verse we're going to go into is Proverbs chapter 5, verse 18 through 20. So we can kind of get and explain the purpose and the intention behind what we're doing for the Most High in the first place. Okay, I think that's very important. What was the intention behind marriage? What was the intention behind the union of husband and wife? Okay, so let's Proverbs 5 and 18, sir.
Come, Proverbs chapter 5 and verse 18 reads, "Let thy fountain be blessed, and rejoice with the wife of thy youth."
The intention was to find joy and happiness with the wife of your youth, the marriage that both of y'all chose to endeavor in. The purpose was to sit back here and find happiness in this union, to find happiness in this connection that the Most High brought together. Okay, read on.
Verse 19, "Let her be as the loving hind and pleasant roe."
If you sit back here and look at how the female deer act towards their children, they're very loving, they're very nurturing, they're very just comforting to their family. And the writer is explaining like that female deer is loving to her family, is how that wife should be loving towards her husband, and how this relationship should be based upon love, respect, and consideration. Okay, read on.
"Come, let her breast satisfy thee at all times."
And that's self-explanatory. When you sit back here and read about what marriage is based upon sex and the continuation of that process. That helps continue to build the bond between husband and wife. Read on.
"And be thou ravished always with her love."
So it's the purpose of marriage is to constantly
Consummate.
Well, consummate, yeah, but I'm just trying to focus on just the
have a connection.
The refueling of that connection and the rebuilding of that bond, so there can always be that happiness and joy in the marriage. The purpose of him going into this is just to explain that the marriage should constantly be nurtured, and that love and consideration and that respect for one another, the purpose of marriage is to build in that over time. That was what was the intention behind bringing together a husband and a wife, was for people to be happy, was for people to rejoice and appreciate one another. There's no doubt about that. But this is also easier said than done. It's easier to sit back here and think of the idea that marriage was based upon happiness and joyfulness and people coming together and being at peace and to be pleased with one another. That sounds phenomenal. But the actual execution of that process is much harder to accomplish than just what you see on TV or the ideas and the falseness that you see on TV.
So
and the dreams and the fantasies that you might see on your TV shows about what looking for love is and finding love. That's really a fantasy, because as we go into today, we're going to find out what plagues most husbands and wives, what plagues most relationships, what makes it so hard to rejoice in the wife of your youth. What you going to say, Al?
Is this talking about this is the goal?
Yes.
Because scriptures, where there's no vision, the people perish. So this is the Most High giving, this is the goal.
The goal and the expectation. This is the expectation of how things are supposed to be.
Yeah.
But we're going to go into what it takes to accomplish this and why it's not being accomplished. Well, first I'm going to go into why it's not being accomplished and why most of the time when you deal with Israelites, and not just Israelites, but just marriages in general, there's a lot of sadness, there's a lot of unhappiness, fighting, arguments, fighting for control. There's always a lot of times drama happening consistently, in which a lot of times counselors are needed, intercessors are needed. People have to be in the middle to kind of help calm down and reset families. And we just want to kind of go into the reason that this is so prevalent. Okay? Read on into verse 20.
Come, verse 20. And why wilt thou, my son, be ravished with a strange woman?
So what he's saying is, how bad does it have to get for you to have to go outside of your marriage to find happiness? Now he's talking about a strange woman, whether it's a nation or whether it is another woman that you're not bound with. The reason you're more connected to saying a strange woman is because a lot of times, if a man chose another wife that's an Israelite, he can keep that wife. So in these terms, why would you go to a nation where you have no attachment with, when the purpose of the bond between the husband and wife was for both sides of the coin's needs to be met?
Okay.
Why would there be the need to go away from the union to find happiness?
And also scripture says a strange woman is a stranger, because whenever there was consummation within the scriptures, it was always he knew her.
Yep.
So it's always going into a person that he's about to know someone that he really doesn't know.
And why would an Israelite man think that it's a better option to nurture a relationship with somebody he doesn't know
versus someone he's known
than to deal with somebody that he knows?
That's a scary situation.
Well, it's scary, but it happens all the time.
Yeah.
People will choose the grass being greener over here than to deal with the person that's right in front of them.
But there's a concept of it's better to take a risk and roll the dice over here, because this situation is not getting any better for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So that motivates a person to start taking risks. The problem is those risks come back home some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
We don't not go into detail about that,
Yes.
but
Three-letter words come to the house.
Yeah, listen.
STDs.
STIs, STDs.
Well, it's some 3-letter. It's bad.
All the 3-letter words.
You don't want to bring that one with the letter A home. That's a bad one.
You have 4-letter words going on, then you have 3-letter words going on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You
said what letter word?
4-letter words are cuss words.
Oh, man.
There's fighting and fussing.
Yeah.
And then there's rolling the dice.
Yes.
And there's coming back home with the elf from the Snake Eyes.
Yeah.
That's a bad situation.
Mm-hmm.
But these are based off of, like you said, the loving role, the consummation,
The intention is, what was
being
the
broken for a long time.
why is it that our people want to look to escape from the beauty that's in front of the marriage unit? Why is that our people can't find the good in what's in front of them and think that it's better somewhere else? Because the intention was for the Most High to bring this union together and for this union to blossom and work. And both parties will find happiness in this union. This was the intention. But a lot of times the intention never comes out to fruition. So we got to kind of go into why. Okay. Did we finish verse 20 yet? Yeah, read verse 20 from the top.
Come. And why wilt thou, my son, be ravished with a woman, Slakia, with a strange woman, and embrace the bosom of a stranger?
And that's the point and the tone of what we were trying to explain. What is the need and why is it so important to look elsewhere to find happiness? Because even in today's terms, it's not necessarily dealing with a nation. It's just dealing with the next person in the street. This is how relationships go. As soon as a husband and wife, either or, find an issue or hit a snag in a marriage, it's time to find somebody else.
Yeah.
Then you find the next person. You'll find a snag in a relationship, in the marriage. It's time to find somebody else. Then you start finding a pattern of running and quitting relationships. Then you look up 10, 15 years later, and then you for a woman, you've been ran through by, modestly saying, dozens of men or worse. And then men sit back here and just jump from woman to woman, thinking they're going to find this perfect blend of happiness and compassion with each different person that he comes across, and he finds out that he's horribly wrong. This happens all of the time. Okay? So let's go back. Let's go 1 Corinthians chapter 7 real quick. In verse, let me see. Let's go to verse 27.
1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 27.
Read on.
1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 27.
Matter of fact, before we go to 27, let's do 3. Let's do 3. Then we'll go to 27 now.
1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 3. He says, let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence, and likewise also the wife unto the husband.
Half the time, what makes there be peace at home is that the wife takes the time to understand what let's look up benevolence real quick.
Benevolence. The disposition to do good.
Mm-hmm. So the Most High said, in order to have a husband and wife and a marriage to work, there has to be a disposition for the husband to do well to the wife, and there has to be a disposition for the wife to do well to the husband. It sounds very elementary. It sounds almost like common sense.
Yeah.
But the problem is common sense isn't always what?
Common.
Half the time when I deal in counsel, everybody's perception of benevolence is what?
It's different.
It's different. And that's the start of the conflicts and the clashing in the flesh. We're going to read about that conflict in the flesh in a second. Half the time, the husband has an idea of what benevolence is to him, and the wife has an idea of what benevolence is to her. And then you sit back here and deal with the husband and the wife giving benevolence in a way that suits them. But half the time, when a husband gives benevolence to the wife, he tells himself he's doing everything he what? Can do. And the wife will sit back here and give benevolence to the husband, and she'll say, I'm giving all I can trying to consider this man. But very rarely does the wife give benevolence the way the husband wants. And very rarely does the husband give benevolence the way that the wife wants. And that starts the conflict. Because in marriage, everybody wants to give what they want to give and not give the benevolence that suits the wife. From a man's perspective, a man wants to give what he wants to give, and then he's pissed that that benevolence isn't reciprocated or appreciated. Outside of breaking the law and being asked to do something that's against the scriptures or to do something that's against pleasing the Most High, there is a responsibility for the wife to give exactly what the husband wants, even if it's not what you want. And then it's up to the husband to give to the wife what she needs to feel loved. And that, a lot of times, this sounds, like I said, this sounds common, but a lot of times a woman wants to be heard and listened to. And when a husband gets home from work, does he want to listen anymore? One of the issues in men, they want to get home and tune out. And they'll tell themselves, I'm supposed to come home, this is my rest. This is my rest. You talking and downloading about your day, now this is not rest anymore. This is work. And then all of a sudden, we pull rank. I'm the husband. Listen, you got to lock into how I do things. And I get that on occasion. But part of the due benevolence is figuring out what this spirit needs to be at peace, to clear their mind, so you can work with them. People think, for men, especially men, think that home is comfort. Home is work. If we understand that when you get home, you got to go to work, then it will be easier to adapt and adjust to the need of the wife that's in front of you. A lot of times, marriages fail just off of that. Men just want to do certain things and tune out. Whether it is listening, whether it is handling more mental responsibility at the house. A lot of times there's mental responsibilities that have to be done at the house. Problems that need to be solved. Issues that need to be resolved. Now, just to defend men, just because it's not done at your beck and call doesn't give you the justification to say, we got to counsel. Because you're not making these issues and doing these issues when I ask you to do it. But the due benevolence kind of spreads out based on the marriage situation, what the wife needs. There's certain responsibilities that a husband has to bring to the table. He has to teach, he has to counsel, he has to listen. He has to order the house. He's still got to be the heart and the mind of the house. The wife, we're going to eventually get to Proverbs 31. And Proverbs 31 is in full effect. A woman has to serve. A woman has to sit back here and understand that her salvation is predicated on how she serves her husband. There's no doubt about that. And we've gone over 3 or 4 classes that explain that. But this is for, and I'm going to say it this way. We've gone over, this is the 5th class about husbands and wives. The first 4 have been about women obeying, because that's the first thing y'all got to do. When we're in an arena where we have to counsel and deal with husband and wife issues that are all scattered and messed up, a sister has to learn what it takes to be blameless. So we can sit back here and go deal with that husband on what he's not doing, on how he's not acting the right way or not being responsible enough. We're going to do that, but a sister has to sit back here and establish where her duty and her mindset is. But I don't want to make it too much in this verse. This is not why I'm going here. Read verse 3 again from the top.
1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 3.
I don't want to overtalk this. Read that.
Let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence, and likewise also the wife unto the husband.
Once again, Paul is kind of letting us know a husband has to get to the point where he learns his wife enough to know what her spirit needs. Not the flesh. Not like the carnal side of her in her mind. It's not about fueling the pride and the ego and the vanity. But he needs to understand what she needs in her spirit. And a wife needs to know what it takes to make her husband happy. And not just keep pushing what she wants to do and call it servitude, but give him what he needs for him to say, hey, she's being benevolent to me.
But when you're saying spiritual needs, in particular, what spiritual needs are we talking about? Because people have different ideas of what spiritual needs are.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta explain what the spiritual needs are talking about. Because there's the spiritual. Some people think spiritual needs are like, I need to go outside. I need to be seen. That's a need people have in their mind. Yeah. I need to be seen with you, and we need to be out and about and publicly be a couple.
Date nights.
People need to feel like we're publicly a couple. That's partially a need.
Well, that was partially why I kind of started reeling it back in the explanation, because there's these type of classes can go so many different directions, and I'm trying to centralize it as to why they fall apart. And this verse I'm trying to use to explain that there has to be an understanding of your partner. A lot of times people are married, but they don't understand their partner. They don't understand what they actually need. A lot of times we're just roommates in a house, and they're giving what they think the other person wants. And for years, they're not giving what they need. That happens a lot. It happens all the time. What you going to say?
I'm saying, because you base it on like common interests.
Common interest. A lot of times what you want to do. Yeah. You push what you want to do on the person, and then you never consider what they want and what they need. And there's not enough time taken to learn that. That's what benevolence is. And if there was time taken even from the husband's perspective to do that, he'd get better reactions from the wife. A lot of times when I'm in counsel and the sister sits back here and explains what she wants, when I'm dealing with Israelites that have been in the truth, a lot of times their requests aren't that bad. The requests aren't that extreme. And I got the brother on the other side like, oh man, this is too much. And it's not too much. You just don't want to do it. And that is why relationships start to get jumbled up. They start getting messed up. Because there's not a give and a take. Even though the wife is supposed to serve, there has to be give and take and benevolence on both sides. That was the intention, and that's how the two parties can rejoice in one another. Okay? Jump to verse 27.
1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 27. Art thou bound unto a wife? Seek not to be loose.
So he says if a husband and wife are together, then work this out. And don't be looking for the out and the exit to quit. Because that's what people always do. If you're bound and the Most High bound y'all, don't run. Deal with the issues and get to the point where you can find the good in one another. Read on.
Art thou loosed from a wife? Seek not a wife.
Paul's like, if you're not married, don't be rushing to get one. This is for men. You're like, if you're married, cool. Work this out. If you're not, don't be rushing to get into it. Read on.
Verse 28. But if thou marry, thou hast not sinned.
No, but and if thou marry.
Salakia. But and if thou marry, thou hast not sinned.
There's nothing wrong with the institution of marriage. Read on.
And if a virgin marry, she hath not sinned.
And if a young sister marries, there's no wickedness in that either. Read on.
Nevertheless, such shall have trouble in the flesh.
He's saying when you marry, you have trouble in the flesh. A lot of people think marriage is the solution to the flesh. It's not the solution to the flesh. When you marry, it is a burden to the flesh. Because now, what people don't understand, the key to marriage is doing the opposite of what you want 90% of the time. How about that?
Servitude. More servitude.
I thought marriage was all these fun things, and we get to do all this good stuff, and we eat, we drink alcohol, we go out. Listen, and we dance tonight.
Take 1%.
What's wrong?
1% of the time.
Listen,
it's once every 2 years.
That's what I'm saying. Listen, why did Paul say it this way? I have it in yellow. I read all this 1,000 times. But I said, damn. Nevertheless, such shall have trouble in the flesh. When you choose marriage, you are choosing trouble in the flesh.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Ain't that the truth? And it's the truth. And it's the truth because it's trouble to the flesh because by nature we're selfish.
Yep.
That's why it's trouble in the flesh.
Yeah.
It's trouble in the flesh because our ideals of marriage, and when the scripture says, yes, the Bible says a man and wife shall become twain.
Yeah.
People think that's like easy. Like it's some damn science project. When you see on the microscope these two organisms, they just transform into one, and it's some easy thing. It's not that at all. For two to become one, that means on both sides, a lot of you has to be shed away.
Yeah.
You got to lose a lot of what you want to do so that for the partner can be happy.
Yeah.
That is what marriage is. And Paul is kind of giving you a sneak peek about this is what it takes. You're going to lose in the flesh because you're not going to get what you want in the flesh. In exchange for a partner, you lose the individual. In exchange in serving Christ, what do you lose? The individual. There is a trade-off for all the good that comes your way. You got to lose the husband and the wife. Because in order for there to be proper due benevolence on both sides, when you want to go left, you got to go right. When you want to go to sleep, you got to wake up. When you want to get the hell out of that house, you got to stay here and listen.
Yeah.
When you don't want to hear, you got to listen. When you want to sit back and be angry, you got to control it. You have to go opposite of what you want to do to keep the house going and to attempt to keep your wife happy. That is the trouble in the flesh. And like I said, we explained about how the wife has to serve the husband, so it's no picnic for her either. She has to change all her hopes and dreams and reorganize it to pleasing her husband. So we're not going to act like that's easy. We understand it because we do that for Christ. But just as much as she has to make those adjustments, we have to be willing to make changes to adapt to what they need. So there's still a dying in the flesh even when we try to deal with that husband and wife. I wish as a community of Israelites and people that was taught a lot, but it wasn't. It wasn't taught the level of sacrifice it takes to keep a marriage just treading water, let alone growing. It takes sacrifice on both ends. And it takes a lot of expectations being pushed away in the back burner so that the good of the body can sustain itself. And then let's not talk about children. Because when you start having children, forget your marriage. Yeah. Y'all better have 1.5. Once you get out past 1.5, you can forget it. You start getting in the trees and forests, shit. There's no time. Because then all of a sudden, the little time y'all might have had for yourself has to get split towards them.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden, y'all going to have no time to be tired, and they're going to be bright and spry and smiling and happy.
Making messes in the house.
And then you're making messes, and it's about their life at that point.
Yeah.
And then you and her get less and less and less.
Yeah.
But once again, a lot of times, this is what people don't understand. It is the level of trouble that comes to the flesh. And when the flesh gets aggravated, that's when the relationships start to go left. Because then people start dealing with unhappiness. Well, why are you unhappy? Why is the husband unhappy? Why is the wife unhappy? Because they're losing in the flesh. And they don't know how to process it. They don't know how to process and accept that it's not about you no more. You're not going to get the attention that you want. You're not going to get what you thought you deserved. And then when you're sitting back here and wrapping around your mind what you think you deserve, what you think is fair, what you think is unfair, then all of a sudden you're sad. Then all of a sudden you want to drink alcohol. You want to get away and escape. All these thoughts start rocking and rolling in your head because you just don't accept that this level of marriage was intended to shake up and attack the flesh in you. And if we understood that that was marriage, once again, wives and husbands will be a little bit more cautious into who they jump into a marriage with. And they might take a little more time to live their life and enjoy Christ a little bit longer before they jump into it. You should jump into a marriage when you're selfless enough to embrace marriage. People want to be married and selfish at the same time. That ain't gonna work. But there's a lot of that going on. You got to sit back here and getting married. You got to know it's not about you no more. But let's continue. I don't want to over talk this. Read verse 28 again.
1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 28. But and if thou marry, thou hast not sinned. And if a virgin marry, she hath not sinned. Nevertheless, such shall have trouble in the flesh.
So he says the ones that marry, the ones that are trying to keep the marriage, you're going to abstain you're going to have trouble in the flesh because half the time, when we have counsel with husbands and wives, when they leave that counsel, they know what? I got to come out of myself more to keep this going. I got to fix me if I want to keep this marriage going on. Am I right or wrong? Well, I got to change me. I got to change my temperament.
I have to be better.
I got to be a better listener. I got to have more patience and temperament. I got to dig deeper and find more love in my heart to keep this going. Because that's what everybody got to ask themselves. Do you have any more in the tank to give? Do you have any more love in your heart to keep trying? And to keep fixing what's inside of you to please your husband and to please your wife? That's what makes it hard. And that's what the trouble in the flesh is. Does that make sense? And for those of us who've been in marriages for longer than a year, don't you see that?
Yeah.
So, continue.
But I spare you.
Paul says, but I spare you. Spare means I abstain for you. Paul said he chose to abstain from this trouble so he can be more potent for the church. Paul didn't have a wife. When you sit back and look at the blue letter, spare means abstain. So what he said is, he understands the trouble that comes in the flesh in trying to keep a marriage. From a husband's perspective, it can be understood that the process of keeping a marriage, you're going to take away from your focus and potency serving who? The Most High. Your time's going to be split. Your intentions are going to be split. So he made the choice to abstain from the rewards of the flesh because of the pulls of the flesh that he's got to go through to keep a marriage. And he understood that I can't be as potent as I need to be in Christ, arguing and working, listening and dealing with all this stuff I got to fix in me to deal with this woman. Where I can sit back here and have a more pure, potent relationship with the Most High, not having that wife. This is why Paul kept saying, if you're married, act like you're not. I chose not to be married because he understood the pulls that came from giving that wife her due what? Benevolence. So this is something that Paul understood, and we're going to go into what that trouble in the flesh really looks at, and why do we all have trouble in the flesh during marriage, and why it's such a pull and tug to keep this unit together. Let all that go. Go to Colossians 3 and 18 and 19.
Colossians chapter 3, verse 18.
2:19, right?
God.
Colossians 3, 18 and 19.
Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands, as it is fit in the Lord.
The funny thing is, when you sit back here and this blue letter was really hitting, it says, wives, it was Colossians 3 and 18. Yeah, it says, wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands, as it is fit in the Lord. When you sit back here and look at the term as it is fit, it says duty. As it's your duty in the Lord. And a lot of times just don't realize that it is your duty to submit to your husband. And this just the funny thing is, if we're going to deal with the word submit, I want to go here. It says to arrange under, to subordinate. That means a wife's supposed to sit back here and purposely arrange herself beneath her husband and her husband's intentions. Okay? To subject, to put into subjection, to subject oneself, obey, to submit to one's control. Then it says to yield to one's admonition or advice. And he says this is the gravity and the magnitude of how a wife is supposed to learn how to operate. When it comes to decisions, you might think your decision makes more sense than his decision. Listen, I've been there in a leadership position having to sit back and follow instruction that I didn't think made any damn sense at all. But I had to learn how to follow even when the decision, I thought my wisdom was superior to the wisdom of the person that gave me the order. Now, if a man has to do that in rank and authority, why is a woman above that? Because this is what ends up happening. One of the key things a wife has to learn is to accept, regardless of what you think is right and wrong, if it's not a law, you got to sit back here and subject yourself and put yourself under your husband's advice and follow that call. So that is what a wife has to do. Once again, I'm not making it solely on that, so I'm not going to overemphasize that. Read verse 18 again.
God, verse 18. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands, as it is fit in the Lord.
The reason Paul is driving this, and he's saying it is your duty, if you're going to serve the Lord, it is your duty to submit to him. I'm going to go back into the submission definition. To arrange under, to subordinate, to subject, to put in subjection, to subject oneself, obey, to submit to one's control, to yield to one's admonition or advice, to obey and be subject. The reason Paul is driving this is because that's the one thing women don't want to do. That's the hardest thing in the world for anybody to do, is to give up their power and their control. Am I right or wrong? That is the battle for all mankind. That's the battle that we have being the Most High's wife. We're the Most High's wife, and what he demands of the men is our obedience, submission, and subjection. The Most High is like, if you want to follow me, you have to give up your power, your authority, the thinking that you're in control. And likewise, the woman has to give up her control and her power to her husband. And this is why Paul is like saying, if you want to be in tow with the Most High, you got to give your power up to your husband. But then on the flip side, what does he say that a man has to give up? Read on.
Verse 19. Husbands, love your wives, and be not bitter against them.
Listen, the reality is, he says, for the men, what is a man's Achilles heel? He wants to be bitter. And that bitterness leads to a man trying to quit on his woman. Because what he's explaining is the dynamic that the Most High has as having the power and control over us. What was the one thing the Most High kept threatening to do? I will sit back here and get really y'all asses and raise up a nation of rocks to serve me. Because I'm tired of y'all asses. Because it's taking forever for you to mold into my image. This is the dynamic the Most High has with us. And what he has to fight as the entity that is in control of us. His expectation of us is to mold to his standard.
His will.
And his will. And when we constantly, habitually fall short of molding to his will, That part of him wants to say, forget these guys.
Cut it. Start
Forget
over.
this nation, cut them off and start over and find somebody who will please me way easier and who appreciates me. Isn't that what husbands feel with their wives?
Yeah.
That's what love is. Love is for a husband to find the capability to not give up on that wife who hasn't mastered breaking herself to give that husband the benevolence he feels he deserves. These are the two things that end up breaking marriages. He makes it very simple. The wife doesn't want to give up control, and the husband wants to say, forget it, because you don't want to sit back and give up this control. I'm going to get rid of this broad and find somebody who will. We can go all around in circles, but the root of why the marriages don't last is based on those two elements. The wife not wanting to serve the way the husband wants to be served, and the husband lacking the love in his heart to keep working with the wife of his youth. Because he's pissed about what she hasn't changed yet, not considering you haven't changed what's inside of you. And you're just as ugly to the father as you look at her being ugly. That's the hypocrisy in us. We're just as ugly. We're just as detestable.
Disobedient.
And that disobedience makes you ugly in the eyes of the Heavenly Father.
Yeah.
So why do we have the right to quit on this woman outside of adultery, obviously, if she just hasn't met your expectations yet? Do you think you've met the Lord's expectation? Who do you think you are as a man? That's the reality. This dynamic is why we always fall short and why marriages don't last. Men have an expectation of their wives that they don't even come close to giving to the Lord. They don't even come close to it. But you're just so sick and tired of what this person ain't bringing to the table. You got to find somebody else who can give you what you need better. And it's so, let's continue. Let's build on this point, okay? Let all that go. Did we finish 19? Yes, we did. Let's go to Matthew. Chapter 24 and verse 12. Matthew 24 and verse 12.
Matthew chapter 24, verse 12. And because iniquity shall abound.
Listen, iniquities, offenses, letting each other down, constantly the fighting and the tussling and the arguing, it starts to wear on a family, a marriage, and a relationship. That fighting and arguing and that fight, most of the time you're fighting on over opinion, fighting for power, fighting for control, fighting to get your way. This is the iniquity that's being talked about. Because of all that iniquity, because of all that sharing of hurt, back and forth, hurtful words, hurtful actions, responding with being hurt, with retaliating with hurt. Because of this type of relationship, this toxic relationship that sisters and brothers have grown up seeing, and they bring this to the house. The funny thing is this. When young men are taught about how a wife is supposed to serve, a wife's supposed to serve the husband. And you got to sit back here and get this wife to be obedient. I wish years ago men would have taught us how to be merciful and how to be patient and how to be long-suffering. Because that wasn't talked about. What was emphasized, and if she ain't locking in, cut her off. Get a new one. If she ain't locked in, cut her off. Get a new one. And all it did is it fed a justification to quit on your people. We always talk about Jew this, Jew this, Jew this, Jew music. I'm sorry, I'm just talking this inside joke with a brother. Everything is Jew, everything is fringe, everything is lions. Let me stop. Lions and braids, everything is that. Listen, I'm saying it. Everything is Jew strength. And those are just examples of strength and examples of the power of the Jew. But the real power is in your mercy. The real power is in your long suffering. Can you dig deep and give love when you don't think you're giving love? Can you see good when there's obvious bad? That is the mark of great men and great people and a person worth fighting for. That's what should be nurtured in a marriage. Because if you ain't gone through it yet, there's going to be times when you ask yourself, why do I continue? Why do I keep trying? Why give a shit? And when you get to that point, it's the Most High showing you the hate you got in yourself. As a nation, we are a very hateful, black-hearted people. And if you want to sit back here and get to the core of why we always fall short in pleasing the Heavenly Father, is because we have a black heart. The scripture talks about when Christ comes back, right? What's the first thing Christ is going to do to his people when he comes back?
Give us a fleshy heart.
He's going to give us a fleshy heart. That's the first thing he's going to do, is to give us a fleshy heart, because that's the one thing we lack. We do not have a compassionate fleshy heart. A fleshy heart is a compassionate heart. We don't have that. We don't have the compassionate heart for our people that Christ has consistently showed in his mercy towards not destroying us. We're reading now in the Sabbath class about how he's wanted to be like the Greeks. And all of a sudden we just said being a Jew is whack. I don't even want to. I despise being a Jew. I despise sacrifices. I despise going to the temple. The entire nation said, we're done with doing this Jew shit. Let's be a Greek. And the Most High didn't destroy us. And this wasn't the first time we did this. We do it generation after generation after generation after generation. We really don't deserve mercy. We really don't deserve a 50th chance, if we're going to be honest. We are some of the most cruel, unappreciative, hateful people in the world. And Christ continues to work with us. Christ continues to have mercy on us. He continues to correct us in measure and not fully do away with us because he loves us. He'll correct us, but he won't do away with us. Our actions and our conduct is worthy of him doing away with us. But he don't do away with us. He works with us. But we don't have the capacity because my eggs weren't cooked a certain way. Or my wife didn't clean the house the way I want it to be cleaned. Or she don't please me the way I want to be pleased. So now I'm having thoughts about it if I should keep her or not. That's the kind of people we are. So read verse 12 again in Matthew.
Matthew chapter 24, verse 12. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold.
And this is the problem. The love of many has waxed cold in relationships and marriage and the family. Everybody is going for themselves. Nobody wants to lose so that somebody else can gain. Wives don't want to submit, and men don't want to have mercy. Men don't want to forgive. Colossians 3 and 18 and 19 gives you the overall reason why relationships don't work. Wives don't want to serve, and men leave because they're tired of getting a woman to try to serve, and they don't listen. That's the issue. We don't have mercy. We don't have patience. Our response to disobedience is just fury, anger, or just coldness. And not being there. That's our response to problems. Now we go to your point, Deuteronomy 28. Now this ties into that loving of one another, waxing cold. It ties into the curses the Most High had us all experience. And the curses, the main root of the curses is our hatred for one another. Deuteronomy 28, verse 54 and 56.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 54. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother.
Don't fret, sisters. We Israelite men hate brothers and women. We're equal opportunity hater. You know, so that hater of the year pimp thing with the pimp side.
Haters ball.
Haters ball. That's us in real life. I hate the clothes you have. What do you say? I hate the clothes. What do you say?
He said I hate. He said I hope the word. He said I hope all the bad things in life happen to you and no one else.
Yes.
But you.
Mm-hmm.
Hate.
Exactly. Our people by nature have a hatred for one another. So read verse 54.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 54. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother.
So he's letting you know that we have a natural hatred for one another. We have a natural hatred for Judah on Judah, the rest of the tribes in Judah, Judah and the rest of the tribes. We have a natural hatred / distrust for one another. And it is innate, and it is strong, and it's heavy. Yes, sir?
I like that point. That tender. Give me a definition of tender in 1828. It was towards the bottom, I believe. It was number 6 and number 7, because it goes back into that benevolence you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Read that real quick.
Tender, 1828, Webster's Dictionary. It says, susceptible of the softer passion.
That doesn't mean he's just a pushover. It gets very specific what it means to be susceptible or accepting of softer passion.
What number is this?
This is number 6.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to double check.
Yeah. Tender, point number 6. Susceptible of the softer passions.
Mm-hmm.
As love, compassion, kindness, compassionate, pitiful.
Listen, to be pitiful, there's a class not alone.
Yeah, it is.
But to be able to sit back here and consider what a person's going through before you judge them, that's everything. Because a lot of times, if you're offended, your first motion is to react based off the hurt that was given to you. More times than not, we don't take the time to put ourselves in our husband's shoes, to put ourselves in our wives' shoes, to understand why they're not there for you in the way that you want it. You can't truly love your husband or wife if you're not pitiful. You truly can't love your brother if you lack the capacity to understand why they do what they do. And to do that, you really have to be a selfless person. And a lot of us are very selfish. Most of us only care about how we feel and what's done to us. And we can care less about why people do what they do because it hurts you. And until we learn how to not operate so narrow-mindedly, we'll never have a brotherhood. We'll never have good marriages. And there'll constantly be complaints about Israelites. And you'll still have these shows on YouTube, Why I Left the Israelites.
Yeah.
Part 1050.
Yeah.
And half of the reason that people left the Israelites is because they would say there's no love. And that's true. But it was also no love for you to leave. How about that?
Yeah.
Because if you love the brotherhood and you love the men around you, why would you leave the brotherhood? I always tell people, everybody wants to talk about why they left the Israelites. I always say, why don't you sit back here and get your rank up and fix it from the inside? Oh, I want to do that. I gotta give my life up. Aha, I got you. You don't want to give your life up. You blankety blank ass, you know what? Everyone would say, well, this is why I don't do that. I see this in there. You know what? I did too.
But they'll do it for the military.
Yep.
And they'll do it for a 20-year job.
Well, that's just politics, dog. You just got to get past the politics, though.
Yeah,
you want that check? You want that check in the 20 years?
But when it comes to
You
Christ,
get that 20-year check?
exactly.
You gotta get that. You get that 20-year check. You get your money.
But see, that's the thinking. If I'm not getting a carnal,
If I'm not getting a reward, I'm not going to suffer.
exactly.
That's my point.
That's a hireling.
Well, that's the point. Listen, I ain't gonna say nothing. I'm gonna salute and I'm gonna get paid. Jack.
Yeah.
You gotta do that on.
Slide it.
I'm gonna get my money.
That's the
You dig?
Right on with that. You know what?
Walk off satisfied.
That's
See that?
That's what I'm saying. Because you know what he said? I'm taking it to him. I'm gonna get my picture.
I'm with
That's how I get back at the man. You dig? This is how we be thinking. When you sit back here and got to deal with the Israelites, you ain't getting shit out the deal. I'm out of here.
I'm out of this.
I don't want any part of this. I'm not getting anything out of this. But if you really love the brotherhood, it ain't like the people that love the Israelites don't believe it's the truth. It's still the truth. Then work from the inside and work out the kinks and show love to your brothers that way. But that's too much like what? Right. That's the point. Because you know what? You got to have real love to do. You got to have love to do that. And your love for your people has to surpass the hatred in you that wants to go for self. Yeah. This is still about love and how much mercy and long suffering do you have. So he's saying that during 28, we don't love each other, and it's all true. Even amongst Israel, whether it's in the truth or in the streets, we're still picking sets. It's still red or blue because of blood. It's still that. Even to this day.
Still light and dark.
Yeah.
It's still light and dark, red or blue, because of blood. What set you from?
Who conquered you?
And you know why?
Spoke?
And you know why I'm not tripping on that? Because we've been doing that since the beginning.
Yeah.
I love Israel to death. And I said we got to all come together. You like vision, man? I'm like, listen, man. This has never happened ever in history. The only time we were even close to being united was with David.
It's about force.
Well, it was with David, but they were willing for a period of time.
Yes.
And even then you had some sprinkled Benjamites that couldn't stand his guts.
Yeah.
And then after David passed, which couldn't have been but a 30. Well, I can't even say that. Because when David was in power, people was wrong on Absalom's side too.
I know.
It wasn't a full 40 years of peace. So maybe 20 people solidly there. And then when Solomon was there, he was sitting back here and giving hell to the 9.5 tribes.
Force.
There's a reason why the Ephraimite leader Jeroboam bounced. Because he was sitting, listen, when you read the history, man, Solomon was hard on the 9.5 tribes. He had them rebuilding the wall and doing the hard labor shit out.
They chilled.
And Judah was smiling like this, jigging. They was smiling, jigging out. And the 9.5 tribes was doing the labor out. You can go on history, you'll find that. That is a fact. And there was animosity there.
Yeah.
And that animosity fueled into the split later on. It wasn't just Rehoboam and the dumb stuff he did. It was how Solomon rode, fueled to get, and then Jeroboam was the last straw. So
Rehoboam.
No, Rehoboam. Did I say Jeroboam? Yeah, it was Rehoboam when he said, "Man, my pinky fingers will be like worse than my daddy's."
Yeah.
They're like, "Well, this nigga is gonna be crazy." Because our father was hard on light-skinned cats. Huh? It was already happening. Huh? 9.5. I said 9.5. I'm 9.5. Damn! I'm not being racist.
Racist.
I'm not. How can I be racist when I'm 9.5? Let me stop. Point is, we're explaining the hatred that's inside of us, and there's never been this time we've all been together and agreeing.
Ever.
Christ is going to bring that. That's why in Deuteronomy 28:68, no man shall buy you. No one person is going to bring everybody together in this kumbaya scenario. We're all locked in. It's not going to happen. So, let's continue in verse 54.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 54. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave.
How? What was it that makes a man want to leave? His wife and his children. It's the bitterness set in. The bitterness set in, and it's not worth fighting because I don't think this person will ever change. And I can't see the good in this person anymore. Or I choose not to see the good in this person anymore. I have made a choice to not give this person another chance anymore. What people don't understand is in order for the marriage to stay sustained, you have to keep fighting past levels of you that tell yourself you don't give a damn no more. There's parts of you that's like, you know what, I don't want to do this. If you don't push past that and abound in love and abound in long suffering, you'll never see the good on the other side. People don't look at marriage like they look at the gym. You're at the gym, so you're working on my pubis and my pubis, and I'm working inside. I'm just going to work out this arm and isolate this muscle. You have to push. I know it's hurting, bro. Push through the pain. You're going to get the gains, bro. You're going to get the gains. We can understand that. I can't even gargle that way. I don't. How is it? That's the spirit of working out. Yes, and
put it down.
And that's how you improve in the gym. That's spirit right there. That's the gym spirit that you need to achieve the results you're looking for. And you understand there's thresholds you have to keep pushing through to get what you want in the gym. But it's the same thing in a marriage. There's thresholds of love and patience and long suffering that you have to push for to keep giving more than what you're used to giving. There's levels of listening you got to push past. Levels of, can you stay calm when you don't want to stay calm? Can you diffuse situations with your words? Can you sit? And the only way to do that, you can't be about you. Can you be selfless enough to keep a marriage going? And this is not about men being soft and weak and giving his wife whatever she wants. That ain't the case. Because I ain't teaching that shit. Have y'all been listening for the last 4 weeks about service this and service that? There's a reason that's first. But on the flip side, there has to be enough love and compassion and mercy inside of us not to quit. A lot of times, men want to quit when they see the worst in their woman. When you see the worst, are you going to stay? You all remember all the words I was saying, the gargoyles and all this. When you see the dragon out, what do? Can you sit back here and still remember the good? Still, but there's no taming anything. I mean, the idea that we control anything is a lie.
It's not true.
Yeah, you gotta fix it. One way or the other. You ain't fixing nothing. Can you realize that you're not fixing anything? All you're doing is hoping and praying that your example and your conduct and the culture you set in your home will start changing a person's mind. If you think you're any more, you have any kind of more magical power than that, you're lying to yourself because you're not that special. We're not that potent. All you can do is be a great example and a teacher and have an example of being blameless in hopes that this person can see your consistency and then they can see how selfish they've been. Yes,
yeah, along with all of what you're saying, What about the dynamic of a man or a woman that is doing the right thing, that is going through the long suffering, the sacrifices for the relationship, but the other person just isn't there? I've seen that many times.
I know, and that's where the problem is. Listen, this is the problem. There are sisters that are trying, and men can't see the good in them. There's a lot. I can't count on my hand how many times I've listened to counsel. I'm like, bro, you're in a tough one. You are in a pickle.
That's why
because this guy is an animal, or he's cold-hearted, or he's black-hearted, and he's not fixing what's inside of him, or he's selfish, and he can't see that he got to fix things too.
Isn't that why you had the class?
This is why the class we went into about picking wisely.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
That is an important thing, because if you can pick wisely, you can kind of avert some of the crazy and make this bad. I said some, not all. Some. You can avert some extremes that are really bad, and you can make intelligent risk in other arenas, in issues that are more manageable. So to answer your question, I get it. This is why we sat back here and went a whole damn class about, if you're going to serve, make sure who you're serving. And make sure who you're going to go into this up and down battle with. Make sure you choose who you're going to be trouble in the flesh for.
I don't want to hear that.
Who are you going to be trouble in the flesh for? Is that?
I don't want to. People, it's like.
But what happens? A lot of times people
like,
sit back here and choose marriage partners because they're lonely. You're in trouble if you're sitting back. I'm lonely. Okay, you're gonna bring a dragon into the house, a beast. Now, after the loneliness is left, now what are you left with? You're the trick bag, huh?
The Donkey Kong guy.
The Donkey Kong guy, the inbox
You
guy.
married Donkey Kong and didn't know it.
Bro, he's throwing fireballs downstairs, down the lower levels out there.
Didn't know it.
You can't leave the house.
You cannot do this. I will not accept this. That's what you got.
And he's jumping like this.
Don't you understand? I don't understand. You got that? You got Donkey Kong. Because he was lonely. Came over.
Hey, that's the diary of a black man.
Oh, man.
Listen, bro. That's what happened when you rush.
Listen, that's what happens when you rush. So to answer your question, this is what courting is about. This is why you take the time to learn a person. You can start seeing temperament there. You can start seeing emotional controlling issues early. But for those of us who just jumped into it, now we're here. And this is still about not forgetting the Most High brought y'all two together. And if he brought y'all two together, maybe what's in that person is purposely there to bring out and show you how hateful you are.
Right.
The way we look at a marriage is situations like, I need to get away from this person because he brings the worst out of me.
No.
Well, maybe he brings the worst out of you because it's there.
Because the worst is inside.
Because the worst is inside of you. Why is the worst out of you in the first place? So if I go to somebody else, then I can hide the worst is inside of me? That doesn't make sense.
You been out there hating me. Like,
Maybe it's because you have hated me. And that's the problem. So a lot of times, your partner is there purposely to show you that you think you're on point, but you're not. You think you're blessed and highly favored, but you might not be blessed and highly favored like you think you are. Maybe you're chosen and sick instead of blessed and highly favored. That's the better. Instead of saying blessed and highly favored, I'm chosen and sick.
how you doing today? I'm chosen.
I'm chosen though. That's what it is. Cough out a lung. That's exactly what you is. Chosen and sick. Anyway, so verse 54 is explaining that the nature in us, because of the curses, but the curse, you know what we're really cursed with? A black heart. That's what the curse. That is the root foundation for all the curses. And the consequence of the curses. This is because the Most High never took, and we read that in 2nd Ezra. No, yeah.
3.
He never took that wicked root out of us. That hateful heart out of us. And because that hateful heart was ever taken out of us, that is the fueling mechanism to all sin. So now that we have the hate in us, the Most High is bringing together these people and these families and these brothers to show you the hate in you so you can what? So you can work on it and fix it and do everything you can in your power to control this wickedness. Maybe not subdue it, but control it. Because everybody like, why did the Most High bring me with this person? Well, maybe you needed this to keep you tethered to the Heavenly Father, to teach you what was inside of you. Because we walk around every day thinking we're so holy, thinking we're in the Spirit, and God's with me. Well, shit. Well, if that's the case, then how come God ain't with you when it's you and your husband? How come it's Diablo's there?
Yeah.
Why? Why are there any buttons to push? Why are there any buttons to push? That's the sin. It's just like I don't want to work with this brother because this brother brings out the worst. That's the person you got to work with. Don't tell me that. If you tell me about a problem with a brother, you'll work with him every day. You work with that brother every single damn day. Don't tell me you got a problem with a brother. Oh yeah? Bing! I have an idea. Maybe you should work with him tomorrow. Listen. Listen. If we're on a road trip, maybe you should spend time with him. In the car. Go in his car. Go in his car on a move.
That's funny.
Listen, it's a 10-hour trip. Go with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to ride all day long? You have a long route? You know, I know the perfect person you can work with.
To ride with.
That guy. What's that?
Does it have anything to do with the curse? Where I believe it was said that he'll put us against the enemy, against each other, against thy brother.
Well, this is what we're going over.
Oh, okay.
This is the verse.
Oh, okay.
This is the
So there
verse.
is a standing curse.
I just said it. There's a curse, and I said before the curse, the reason why we have the curse is because we have an evil heart in us. Is what spawns the curse.
Okay.
The evil heart is the problem. There shouldn't be anybody who pushes your buttons. How come we can't look at it as this brother's sick? He don't understand. He's young in the spirit. He needs more time. He needs more time to figure it out. What do I have to be for him so that he can sit back here and figure out how offensive he is? What scripture does he need? What example does he need? How do I have to be a better brother for him so he can figure out his issue? That ain't how we think. I don't want to work with him, man. I don't want any parts of this guy. Give me somebody else to work with. That's what I'm thinking. Most High cursed me with being around these cats all damn day long. That is the exact opposite way to look at things because we're black-hearted by nature. But you know why? Because we can't get past how people, women, scenarios make us feel. That's why we're so black-hearted. Because we're given to our feelings and emotions. We never take the time to learn how to appreciate and value and see the good in the people the Most High brings our direction. Okay. Jump to verse 56.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 56. The tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness.
The wife was supposed to be even more tender towards her husband, more considerate of her husband, more pitiful of her husband, more loving and nurturing and supportive of her husband. But what happened with her?
Her eye shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter, and toward her young ones.
That's all I want, because the truth is this. Then the woman, the mother, most of the time the mother just can't get past how the children are inconveniencing her.
Uh-huh.
A lot of times that mother wants to sit back here and just live her life. And the children are a burden.
I'm not getting what I need for me, so you're not getting what you need for you.
Mm-hmm.
That curse goes downhill.
Exactly. This is why mothers, new age mothers, got their kids on video games and tablets. Why? If they got a tablet, they ain't bothering me. If they're watching TV, they ain't bothering me. Because I want my time. That's how you know you're dealing with an ostrich.
And then back
an ostrich in the wilderness, they'll sit back here and have their young and leave the egg out in the woods and just run off. And then if other animals step on it or eat it or take it, I'll have nothing.
I'm free.
The Most High calls our women ostriches because we don't have enough love. But you know what I mean? You don't have enough love to put your life last. It still goes back to who's more important in every aspect of the relationship. Have women learned that once you're married, it's not about you ever again? Because if you understand it is never about you, how much complaining will you bring to him? If you understood what marriage was, you would understand that it wasn't about what you wanted anymore. It was about what your husband wanted. And if you understood that, then you wouldn't argue with him. And if you don't argue with him, he'd be less apt to leave. That's you being blameless. Now, on the flip side, while this woman is learning this and coming to grips with the reality of her life, can you be patient and have the capability of seeing that day by day she is learning how to be more selfless? And am I mature enough to sit back here and work with her as she goes through the highs and lows of figuring out that it's not about her? Knowing how long it took you to figure out it's not about you in regards to serving the Most High. This is why I always say it's hard to teach this kind of concept to men who don't have to be subject to nobody. Because when they're not subject to nobody, then they don't know what it means to serve. If they don't know what it means to serve, they can't be merciful in developing somebody in servitude.
I can't have empathy.
Because you have no empathy because you don't serve. You don't follow. If you don't serve and follow, but you're going to be merciless on his wife having to serve and follow.
You be an oppressor.
You know you're an oppressor because you ain't never served. This is the catch. This is why you just sit back and choose a man in the work. And don't waste his time with these cats who got a bunch of verses with no work behind it. There's a reason why we say these things. Because they lack empathy and they lack pity. Because you got to sit back and remind when you was young. Okay, listen, brothers be getting classes 3 to 4 days a week and rebel. Sisters get classes one time every 2 weeks. And you're tripping? How many classes do sisters get, especially when they have kids? Not a lot. And you're going to trip on their inconsistencies when men get the Bible 4 days a week, plus counsels, plus brothers listen to it in the car and trucks.
Every day.
And brothers still can't take a check. It's year 10 and men can't take checks. What the hell's going on?
Still complaining.
Men are still talking back and it's year 8. What the hell is this?
Yeah.
But if a sister does it, I lost my mind. You know why? Because your pride kicks in. You make it about your ego and pride too. Okay. So, let all that go and go to Ephesians 5 and 33. You put it in there. So.
Yeah.
Give me reverence to somebody.
Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 33 reads,
knowing that the curse that we have is that the wife don't want to serve the husband because she don't want to give up control, and the men don't have the patience. They're too bitter and hateful in developing another person. And you know why? Because men a lot of times take that wife's rebellion personal, like it's a knock against them.
Yeah.
They take their rebellion like it's a knock against them, and they can't handle it. That happens a lot with the ego that men have. They don't realize that they're the servants of the Lord. They have an issue with the Heavenly Father. Because you know how you know that? When you counsel men. Because when officers start counseling young men, they do the same thing. They get angry when young men rebel. You get angry because you don't like how it makes you feel as a ranking guy. You take their pride personal. That shows how immature you are. If a teacher and a counselor doesn't learn how to detach ego from his side, he can't properly counsel the student. Whose children are they? Most High. My wife, she's the Lord's, not mine. The brothers are the Lord's, not mine. If I can keep that in mind and counsel, then who are you having a problem with? So now I can maintain my control and teach and counsel and stay in the book. But that's not easy to do. So read verse 33. So knowing this, that the curses are intact and that cold heart is there present in the marriage, and we understand that is the kryptonite in all Israelite marriages, is that cold black heart. So Paul keeps saying it in different ways. He said it in Colossians 3, now we're in Ephesians 5.
Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 33 reads, "Nevertheless, let every one of you in particular so love his wife even as himself."
Listen, if I'm looking at my wife as I'm judging myself, wouldn't I have more mercy on myself? If I'm considering how the Most High is developing me, I'm going to be first to say, man, I've tried this. I know I'm weak. I know I'm weak in this arena, but I'm trying. I'm working on this. I'm trying to fix it. It's been a long time. I know I suck in this arena. Please be merciful with me. Isn't that what we want from the Heavenly Father? Yeah. There's certain things we naturally do well, and we receive and understand quickly, and there's other things we struggle at. And our hope to the Heavenly Father is the things that we struggle at, the Most High will keep being merciful with us. But if we're going to be honest, we'll pray that mercy prayer, it's like year 7, and we're still praying that mercy prayer. Am I right or wrong? Think about the major issues in your spirit, and how long has it taken you to even be more in control of it? Thank you. At least you're being honest. It takes 10 plus years to really fix real demons in you. Not the surface stuff, the real stuff. And if you can say it took me 10 years to get a hold of these issues, right? We'll sit back here and cut off our rib in year 3. Because she don't want to change. She's tripping. She don't want to be corrected, brother. She don't listen. I got to move on from this. She is off in the spirit. But if the Most High said that to us, we'd be crying and snotting and pleading from the Most High not to do this to me. Am I right or wrong? So, read verse 33 again.
Come. Nevertheless, let every one of you in particular so love his wife even as himself.
But a lot of times we don't love our wife like ourselves. Because if we loved our wife like ourselves, we'd be merciful. We'd be forgiving. We'd be willing to focus on the improvements versus the flaw. We don't do that. And the funny, Israelites, we are trained and conditioned to look for flaws. We got flaw meters in our weakness, red. We'll sit back here. We are trained to see the weakness. Experts at it. But we are very bad at seeing progress. We are very bad at seeing progress. Slight improvements. Hey, this person was like this, but they made a slight change. Give this person the benefit of the doubt. This person has made a good change. Give this person the benefit of the doubt. They're trying. He's trying. She's trying. But it takes love to do that. Because hopefully you're praying the Most High can see your incremental growth. You're hoping the Most High sees your incremental growth. but you lack the ability to see your wife's incremental growth. And if you can't see your wife's incremental growth, then you're going to tear her down and focus on what she's not doing. The incremental growth is a reminder that she's trying. That goes for the husband too. As a wife, can you see your husband's incremental growth? And see that he's trying to? He's trying to make adjustments. He's not the same guy as he once was. He's trying to fix this or trying to fix that. Have you learned to have that capacity too?
There's effort.
Can you see the effort? Or are you fixated on what he or she doesn't do? Most of us in a marriage situation is consumed with what the partner doesn't do, what the partner isn't trying enough of. And this is where things go left. We have these expectations of what a husband's supposed to be. And if you don't meet these expectations, you don't give a damn. If the wife doesn't meet these expectations, then she don't give a damn. But half the time, we're not making proper evaluations of our husbands and wives and our circumstance. Because if we did, we would bring down those expectations and deal with what we got and be appreciative for what we got. Listen, the Most High in Exodus chapter 19 said he envisioned Israel being a kingdom of priests. Have we ever?
That's the expectation.
That was the standard, and he kept realizing, why the hell aren't these Israelites being a kingdom of priests? And then in the middle, he says, "Man, I got to change their entire heart. Then they'll be my kingdom of priests."
Yeah.
But we were not going to get to kingdom of priest status on earth. It wasn't going to happen because we kept falling short. Listen, I got to bring Christ down here, man, to show him a better way. And he got to die so that I don't destroy these guys. Think about that. It was the Most High continuously giving us what?
Mercy.
Second chance after second chance, benefit of the doubt after benefit of the doubt.
And making adjustments too. And I'll say that these are righteous adjustments, not compromising it for weakness. But he made incremental.
You know what he realized?
Yeah.
This is what he realized. When Israel started sitting back here and wanting to be Greek and wearing togas and going to the gym and being bati fish, when they made that decision to do that, the Most High was like, listen, okay, man, I got to destroy this temple and I got to send an example of how to do this the right way. I need to send them a physical example, a better example of how to do it. That was his example to fix the problem. Instead of destroy the person, let me send a better example of how to do it right. When your partner, when your wife shows you, and she's at her lowest in her conduct, outside of obviously adultery, do you sit back and make the decision that she needs to get retaught and get redeveloped? No, we don't. We tear it down. Christ at the level of saying, man, these guys don't got it. What am I going to do to get them to see it? I got to send my son down here to get them to see it, to get them a better example of how to do this. He's showing you the thinking of a person that's trying to get a group of people to see something that they need to see, but they keep being self-destructive. Because if the Most High kept saying, these guys got a problem with me, then the action would have been to destroy them. He had to, what did Christ say? Forgive them for what? They know not what they do. He had to sit back and take a stance of, it's not about them hurting me. They don't understand the magnitude of their sin and how it pisses off the Most High. This is how you have to operate when you're dealing in judgment. When you're dealing in judgment, you have to remove yourself from the equation, how you feel from the equation, so you can soundly figure out what a person needs to get developed. There's a parable that talks about how when there's a fruit or tree that doesn't produce fruit for a period of time, he says the thought was to tear it down, but you don't do it. You redung it first.
Okay.
You reteach it. You redevelop it. You try to establish a better culture around it in hopes that this tree can revitalize itself. That is explaining what patience is in a nutshell. How do you show patience and mercy? Reteach it. Redevelop it. Trim the trees up. Working with Ice and those trees. Well, I didn't say I was working. I was watching them. But while watching Ice cut the trees down, I understood trimming off dead weight and keeping the tree. You salvage the tree by cutting off these branches that are hanging down and pulling down the tree and making the tree weaker. You give it a chance to re-heal itself. That tree that's next to the house is starting to grow again. You see that? I'm like, this thing is starting to grow. This is crazy. Before it was dead and all jacked up and looking bad, but the trimming gave it life, gave it an opportunity to grow. This is what dealing with people are. This is what dealing with your wife is. But how many of us have the ability to look past how angry they make us feel and understand that they're students and they need to be taught. And they need to get retaught and redeveloped in hopes that they can see and change better. Because this is what the Most High says he does for us. And if he's doing this for us, it's our obligation to be that way for our wives. So for sisters out here that are asking themselves or thinking that classes in the last 4 weeks are one-sided, they're not. Because I know listen, the faces I saw in the last few classes, whites were like, this is bullshit. Everything's one-sided. Everything is men. All I got to do all this serving and serving. Yeah, y'all got to serve. All this topic don't change it, but y'all got to serve. And but if I was y'all, I listen to all 4 of them classes on repeat. Because that don't change. But this is just the understanding that because sisters have to fight their nature, we got to fight our nature. Because we're asking them to fight their nature. And their nature is to gain control. That's what got Eve in trouble in the first place. She wanted what? Power. And because Eve wanted power, Mosai put her in a condition where she had to serve even more rigorously. That's the curse of being the wife. You got to serve and give up your power. Because that's the one thing you don't want to do. And with that, they got to give up their power, and we got to be what we don't want to be. Merciful, loving, patient, enduring. Because that's what Christ did for us. That is how the dynamic infrastructure works. Read verse 33.
Come. Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 33 reads, Nevertheless, let every one of you in particular so love his wife even as himself.
Like it said, I see men quitting their women because they're angry at them. You wouldn't want the Most High to do that to you? But it's okay to be cruel to your woman, but you don't want the Most High to be cruel to you. There's a lot of hypocrisy there with a lot of Israelites. It's okay for you to be cold with your wife and cut her off, but you're praying the Most High don't cut you off. That's the truth. So, women, what he's saying is we have to have that mercy inside of us. That's what we got to fix, because that's the big issue with men. We want to cut things off and make life easier. We want a mental break. That's what we're looking for, a mental break to do our job and not deal with problems. There's a strong, heavy sense of a lack of responsibility in men that got to get fixed. And you got to be responsible, because that's what you want the Most High to do with you. You want the Most High not to give up on you. So you can't give up on the person the Most High chose you to be with, or that you chose to be with. This is about honoring obligations. Read on.
And the wife see that she reverence her husband.
What's reverence, Kariah?
Reverence, 1828, Webster's Dictionary. To regard with fear, mingled with respect and affection.
And that's what women don't want to give their husband. They don't want to fear and respect their husband. That is a lifelong battle for a wife. Because to fear and respect their husband means you got to put yourself first. To fear and respect your husband, that means you value his decisions over your own. His method over your own. That's what it takes. And that's what sisters don't want to give up. And that's why you got to give it up. You got to give up your desire for power and attack that party that doesn't want to respect their husband. And that doesn't want to reverence her husband and fear her husband. Well, listen, you hear about a woman supposed to fear her husband. We're supposed to fear who?
Most High.
We're supposed to reverence the Most High. Don't you see how the things that we're putting women through, we have to do ourselves. So this isn't some one-sided thing, this one-sided chauvinistic thing that people might think is the case. But he's going very simple with the explanation and the instructions, because where marriages fail is rooted on a woman not trying to reverence her husband and a husband wanting to quit on that wife when things get too hard, or he don't think she's trying to listen. And I was going to say that to answer your question, sis, like, why would anybody marry somebody they don't respect? A lot of times the answer is you don't know that you don't respect until you're pushed to a certain level. You don't even know you don't respect until you're put in a situation where your pride really comes out. And you have to be humbled based on your husband's decisions. Then you realize you don't respect. You're not going to know. Listen, even just so y'all know, we talk about husbands and wives taking the time to learn the husband you got. Listen, that's only part of the remedy. You're still going to be humbled. You're still going to have to serve. A lot of the things that your husband is going to push and emphasize is not the things that you want to push and emphasize. And when he pushes the household and the family and you a direction that you don't agree, then you're going to be tested to determine, do you respect him or not? It's easy to respect somebody that's making decisions that you agree with. It's hard to respect somebody that's making decisions that you don't agree with. You're not breaking the law, but you don't agree with it. And you don't want to go through it. And if you don't want to go through it, are you going to follow it? Are you going to serve and just go the direction he wants you to go, even though you don't agree? Then your respect will be tested. It's like what the Most High sits back here and does. He breaks us down. We're bright-eyed and bush-tailed serving the Most High until you get hit with some things you weren't expecting. Then you got to ask, do I really love the Lord? Everybody says they love the Lord. They start losing paychecks. That's the truth. Everybody loves God. And all of a sudden you guys start losing for God? I don't know. This is for me. I don't know. This is what I want to do. Are you sure this is Christ? I don't know if this is Christ. I was cool when I was getting checks and things working out. I was going to pay bills. That was Christ.
Yeah.
This one, I don't know about this one. When you got to lose for God, then your respect is tested. Same thing with sisters. When it's serving God and you're benefiting from it, oh Lord, it's great. I have the greatest husband in life in the world. When you got to lose for that husband and that path and that way, then all of a sudden, do you really love your husband? Are you going to be a servant when it's just good? A lot of Israel will serve when it's good, but they won't serve when it's bad. And that's how you know what kind of servant you are. If you're a good servant or a bad servant. Can you be obedient when it doesn't work out in your favor? Let all that go. Go to Ecclesiastes in the Apocrypha 17 and 16. Because Paul is explaining the two things. One thing the husband got to focus on and one thing the wife got to focus on. He understands what's the problem in the marriages. He understands it.
Ecclesiastes. chapter 17, verse 16.
Read on.
Ecclesiastes chapter 17 and 16. But every man from his youth is given to evil. Neither could they make to themselves fleshy hearts for stoning.
So what Paul is explaining in Ephesians 5 and Galatians 6 or Galatians 5, he talks about he's going right at that stony heart in our people. This is why marriage doesn't last. We're selfish. We have a stony heart, a heart that doesn't want to have compassion. We're not naturally compassionate and loving people. This is why the issues are arising the way they are. Okay? Let that go. And we're going to jump to you can tell how fleshly we are just by how the Most High gave us the law on divorce and how we're so willing to cut things off and cut people off. Before we go there, let's go to Malachi chapter 2, verse 14 through 16. And can y'all wait for, like, when y'all get down there, can you take that stuff to that person if it's possible? Okay. Can you call that spirit? Or, okay, can you give them the number? Just make sure they got that. It's better time to do that than me getting there at 11. Yeah. Go to Malachi chapter 2, verse 14 through 16.
Now, Malachi chapter 2, verse 14. Yet say ye, wherefore? Because the Lord hath been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth.
If you sit back here and push and read Malachi 2 from verse 10 down, the entire chapter just kind of explains that we've had a history of being cold-hearted to our nation. Now we're reading in our brotherhood. Now we're getting to verse 12, and it's going into, or 14, and start going into how our relationship with our wives are bad. Okay? So read verse 14 again.
God. Yet ye say, wherefore? Because the Lord hath been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth.
So the Most High is watching how Israel, the men, treat the wife of their youth. The Most High is looking at how we deal with our women. Okay, read on.
Against whom thou hast dealt treacherously.
Stop. He says the Most High is saying that the men have dealt treacherously with their wives, with their family. But let's explain why. If you look up the definition of treacherous or treachery, it says a man who violates his allegiance, a man who violates his faith pledge to his friend, or betrays a trust in which a promise of fidelity is implied. What he's saying is Israel has been treacherous to the wife of their youth because they're sitting back here and quickly giving bills of divorcement and quitting on them. This was the problem with Israel. The men. The men would sit back here and see the flaw in their wife. They'll see an issue in their wife that they haven't changed quick enough. Then they'll just cut them off and get somebody else. That's how a man can be treacherous against his wife. Treachery between a man and a wife has nothing to do with him getting another wife. The treachery is based on a man choosing a wife and just not dealing with her and cutting her off because he's seen a flaw in her and not having a willingness to work on that issue and work on that flaw in their spirit. That's the problem. Okay? So read verse 14 again.
Verse 14. Yet ye say, wherefore? Because the Lord hath been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth, against whom thou hast dealt treacherously. Yet is she thy companion, and the wife of thy covenant.
He's like, listen, this woman, the wife of your youth, is the wife of your covenant. What does that mean? It's an oath, and it is a bond that ain't supposed to be easily broken. And the treachery in Israel is that we'll have a covenant and we'll break the covenant. We read this about even in Antiochus Epiphanes, how he was a treacherous person. He was treacherous because he kept breaking oaths. He kept making a deal with somebody and changing that deal and going to somebody else's deal. That notion is wicked. The Most High is like, if you chose this wife, you got to deal with this person's spirit. And not be so quick to run this spirit off or quit on this spirit. Or make reasons not to find a way for reconciliation and some type of union or the maintenance of the union. That's up to us to fight to keep. Here's your hand up.
This is a question. If you since the wife of that, could that also be like representing how the innocency of it or the pure intention of it, or is that reaching?
What he's just saying is the covenant. Just keep it simple. The covenant between husband and wife shouldn't be easily broken. And even Christ explained, if it's not about adultery, why are we quitting each other anyway? But continue.
God, verse 15. And did not he make one, yet had he the residue of the Spirit. And wherefore one? That he might seek a godly seed.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore take heed.
So he said the union was supposed to be there for the assurance of a godly seed. And what he's saying is that husband and wife were supposed to be together and raise those children to be godly. That's why that union wasn't supposed to be broken. Read on.
God. Verse 16.
Yeah, therefore. Let's read therefore.
God, therefore. I'm so sorry.
It's in the middle of 15, sir.
Middle of 15. Therefore, take heed to your spirit, and let none deal treacherously against the wife of his youth.
Read on.
For the Lord, the power of Israel, said that he hated putting away.
He hates putting away. This is what the men have to work on and focus on in being husbands. We can't be so quick to give something up and quit and start over. Because that's that. And us putting away is where that black-hearted nature really thrives amongst the men. The wickedness in the woman is the willingness to maintain her power and to not reverence her husband. But the men, their biggest issue that you keep reading about in the scriptures is that part of us that wants to quit and move on and find something else. And that's how we become treacherous with the Heavenly Father. It's the fact that we don't finish and work through and endure the problems and the up and down. We don't have enough love to endure, not just for the children, but for the fact that we made a covenant in the first place. Okay? So what we're trying to explain is why the marriages don't last, because we're too quick to quit on the wife. And the wife don't want to change, so this constant power struggle is brewing. And then people start going through the motions. They start fading apart. And nobody's fighting to keep their end of the bargain. If a wife ain't changing, are we counseling about how to redung this spirit, how to redevelop this spirit, how to reteach this spirit? What does this spirit need to want to fight and give and serve and reverence? These are the questions that have to be established. That can be done. And when we're in marriage counsels, that's all we're trying to figure out. What does a husband got to do to help inspire you to fight? And then what do you got to do to stay in order to motivate him to fight? It's still about trying to get both parties motivated to fight and play their role and do what's necessary for their side of the marriage to work. Okay, so read verse 16 again. We're going to leave from there after that verse.
God, verse 16. For the Lord, the power of Israel, said that he hated putting away.
Mm-hmm.
For one covereth violence with his garment, saith the Lord of hosts. Therefore, take heed to your spirit, that ye deal not treacherously.
So the Most High keeps saying, listen, stop cutting your people off. Now, with that being the case, Israel always wants to pull this verse. Numerous verses. But go to Ecclesiastes 25 and 26.
Ecclesiastes chapter 25 and verse 26. If she go not as thou wouldest have her, cut her off from thy flesh.
Hell yeah, man. Move on, man. Cut her off, man. She ain't locking it. She ain't trying to listen, man. This is my excuse right here. This is what men use. Read it from the top again.
Ecclesiastes chapter 25, verse 26. If she go not as thou wouldest have her, cut her off from thy flesh, and give her a bill of divorce, and let her go.
What it's letting you know is this was still treacherous in the eyes of the Heavenly Father. Why? It don't say how long, how many years you got to put into a person before you cut them off. How much time you got to invest. You can tell men were using this verse to justify their selfishness, to justify just cutting people off and going to the next person. You can tell people misused and misabused this verse. What you're going to start seeing in the scriptures is that you have certain things that are lawful, but I try to say this in the nicest way. The law was set up to be the least you can do to not offend the Most High. The law was not set up for to be the max a man can produce to give his effort to the Heavenly Father. You read this in the New Testament where Christ said the Most High allowed a man to write a bill of divorce because of the what? The hardness in your heart. So he's like, because you guys are carnal, this is the best you can bring to the table. So I'll give you the least you can do to please me so that you don't get out of bounds with me. And Israel wants to sit back here and just stay in that pocket of the law. But they don't realize the law is the least you can do. That's the very bare minimum you can do so that God don't cut you off. It's not the best you can do. There's many more levels you can do to get to the Most High. The law is just the bare minimum. So even in the law where it says giving a woman a bill of divorce, is that really the spirit of what the Most High wants to deal with marriage? Is to give you an automatic out? Because if you got an automatic out, how hard are you going to work to make the marriage right? It's just the truth. So just keep this in mind. The law is the least you can do on the very lowest level so that the Most High don't cut you off. That's not the spirit of how he wanted things to be, though. I'm just going to go into, I'm going to explain it. Read Deuteronomy 24 and 1. Deuteronomy 24 and 1. One through 3.
Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 1. It says, when a man had taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes.
What the hell would a woman have to do for you don't have no favor in his eyes no more? He didn't say adultery, because adultery, she gets killed automatically. That's the law. If a woman's caught committing adultery, she's dead. So this is not adultery. But the law, Moses is giving Israel an out. If you don't see any good in this sister, get rid of it. That's insane. He's giving us an out because our outlook, we were too immature to push past our feelings and work with somebody's spirit. Read it again.
Deuteronomy 24, verse 1. When a man had taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he hath found some uncleanness in her.
What's the uncleanness in a woman that makes you want to cut her off and find somebody else? He's showing you Israel be quitting on people for the weakest reasons. We'll quit a woman for our wives for the weakest reasons and be justified and pull a verse to say it. Because we have no compassion and mercy. Read on.
It says, then let him write her a bill of divorcement, and give it in her hand, and send her out of his house.
Read on.
And when she is departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife. And if the latter husband hates her...
Like, why are Israel hating people? Why are we just hating women left and right? It's just hate. If you find someone close, get rid of her. If the next one don't like her, get rid of her. Like, damn. It is what the hell is in us to have that much hatred in our people? That's the treachery. Now, we'll understand that later on, but Moses is like, I got to give y'all the basic parameters because you guys are beasts.
Yeah.
And Moses knew we were a hateful, beastly people.
Yeah.
Read on.
And write her a bill of divorcement, and giveth it in her hand, and sendeth her out of his house. Or, if the latter husband die, which took her to be his wife, her former husband, which sent her away, may not take her again to be his wife.
All Moses was trying to do through the Most High was not have love triangles going on.
Yeah.
You know,
Confusion.
leave my man, I come back to this man. Like, that's confusion.
Yeah.
If you're going to sit back here and cut someone off, just know there's no turning back on that decision. All Moses was trying to explain is, if you're going to sit back here and make this move, just know you can't. You got to make sure this is for good.
Cut it clean.
But it's for good, in hopes that you will sit back here and fight for it. He's like, listen, there's no turning back. He's trying to say there's no turning back in this first marriage. So if you're going to cut her off, there's no turning back. The hopes of that is to inspire somebody to do what? Fight for it.
See it out.
Because if not, if she leaves and deals with somebody else, she can't come back.
Yeah.
The purpose of that is to inspire that husband to sit back here and not let her go in the first place. And second guess, say, man, she can't come back if I let her go. Is she that unclean? Yeah. That I got to sit back here and is she that unclean that I got to let her go? Is it that bad? Let me reconsider my decision before I cut her off. Read on. No, that's all I want from that verse. It just showed the dynamics of how much hate we had even in the time in Exodus, even in the time of the wilderness. He was like, man, men was hating their women, kicking them out of the tent. Man, go back to their mamas. Don't come back to my tent no more. What the hell is going on that is that bad even back then? Yeah. It just showed that Moses understood we had so much hatred in our heart from the beginning. And if men are going to be right with the Most High, we got to break that inside of us. Because that one thing that we lack, compassion, mercy, patience, we want that from the Father. Yeah. So if we're going to get that from the Father, do unto others as you want done unto you, right? We better sit back here and fight to keep these covenants that we have between our wives. Because the Most High can sit back here and say, I never knew you. Yeah. He can say the same thing to us. I can say, well, I prophesied in your name. The Most High can say, I never knew you. I'm going to cut you off like you cut your woman off. Yep. That can help. That can happen super easy.
Just by the same measure.
Because you're going to get judged by how you judge people. This is what men have to be conscious of before they choose a wife. And in the midst of marriage, not to be so quick to be consumed with their feelings, emotions, hatred, so forth and so on. Let Deuteronomy 24 go and jump to Deuteronomy 21, verse 15 through 17.
Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 15.
What question is that? One second, let me type this in, man.
Let's do what?
Deuteronomy 21, verse 15.
15 through. This is another verse to show how disconnected our people were. Deuteronomy 21, it's 15. I put 5 on the screen, so like it.
Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 15 through 17.
Yeah, I'm ready.
If a man have two wives, one beloved and another hated.
You see how we keep reading about how men or husbands are hating their women? And he says, if a man has two wives, one he loves the hell out of and one he hates. Read on.
It says, and they have borne him children, both the beloved and the hated.
Mm-hmm. Meaning, the one he loves, he got children with the one he loves, and he got children with the woman that he hates. Read on.
And if the firstborn son be hers that was hated.
So the firstborn son was of the woman that he hates. Read on.
Then it shall be, when he maketh his sons to inherit that which he hath, that he may not make the sons of the beloved firstborn before the son of the hated.
Why would you sit back here and take your hatred of your woman? First of all, why would you hate your wife that you're still with? And then why would you sit back here and take that hatred out on your firstborn kid?
Because she reminds
That's
you.
how bad we are.
Yeah.
I can't even conceive. Like, okay, Junior, what does Junior got to do with the woman that I had? Junior's part of you.
It's very simple. I took it personally. That we call it hatred, which it is, but hatred is the full version after somebody takes it personal.
Yeah,
These arguments, these comments, the constant resistance, the obstinance, the contrariness, and the anger and the disconnection over time grows, and then it becomes personal. And once it's personal, everything connected to this person you will cut off. You will cut off everything connected to that spirit. That's what happens.
That's how bad we are. That's how sick we are. And so Moses has to deal in a world of Israel that has no love and no compassion and no mercy with them, no mercy at all. And the law has to be constructed. The Most High is looking at them. Not Moses. Moses didn't make the law. The Most High did. But the Most High is looking at the conditions and the thinking of this nation. And like, I got to give these guys the bare minimum parameters on how to work with people. Because if the Most High would have said from the beginning, it's against the law to cut your woman off, Israel couldn't have handled that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Israel would have lost their minds. Oh, hell no, I can't do that. That is impossible. That's what Israel would have did.
I'm suffering.
If you didn't give them an out to sit back and write a bill of divorce, we couldn't handle that.
No,
We were very elementary. That's crazy.
It shows you how basic we are,
but
and how the law is the bare minimum of what you can do. Israel swears that it's all you got to do is the law. So when Israel just pushes law only, what they're saying is just do the bare minimum. There's way more to the law than that. There's way more levels of understanding and selflessness that comes with the law. That's why Christ said the law was a shadow of things to come, a figure of things to come. It was the basic format of the beginning before we got to Christ. Christ was the full figure of what pleasing the Heavenly Father looked like. But from the beginning, this is what the outline was. Most I understood the hatred in us and allowed the laws to work around that hatred that was still inside of us. Now, if we get time, we'll get to that in Mark chapter 10 about how the Most High said, well, we'll have time. Let's do that now. Let's go to Mark 10, verse 1 through 13. Because Christ, he wasn't even meant to be that way. But Moses had that in there because of your hardness.
10
Mark 10, verse 1 through 13.
God. Mark chapter 10 and verse 1. And he arose from thence and cometh into the coast of Judea by the farther side of Jordan. And the people resort unto him again. And as he was wont, he taught them again. And the Pharisees came to him and asked him, is it lawful for a man to put away his wife?
So the Pharisees were sitting back here trying to trap him into some scriptures, trap him into a lie, or trap him into some kind of controversy. So the Pharisees, is it lawful for a man to put away his wife? And the law says, yes, it's lawful to do that. Keep going.
Is it lawful for a man to put away his wife? Tempting him. And he answered and said unto them, what did Moses command you? And they said, Moses suffered to write a bill of divorcement and to put her away. And Yahushua answered and said unto them, for the hardness of your heart, he wrote you this precept.
And he says, because of the hardness of your heart is why this precept was written. This is the basic you can do. The intention, Mosai said in Malachi 2, he hates putting away. But he gave us that out clause to put away because we had a hateful, hard-hearted nature. He's letting us, once again, that hard-heartedness, that black-heartedness in us is why on our end as husbands, the marriage doesn't last. So, he said because of our hard-heartedness, he wrote this precept. Read on.
Verse 6. But from the beginning of the creation, the Most High made male and female. For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh. So then they are no more twain, but one
The
flesh.
purpose was for these two people to come together and build as companions and love and consider and work with each other. The wife was supposed to serve, set aside her goals and aspirations, serve her husband, and her husband was to learn how to love his wife and have mercy on his wife and to develop her spirit. And this companionship and this covenant was supposed to mirror the covenant the Most High had with the men. And we were supposed to understand how the Most High felt with us when we see the ups and downs that go with our women. That was supposed to remind us how we are with Him. So this dynamic was important for us to learn so we can understand mercy, long suffering, and love. Read on.
Verse 9. What therefore the Most High have joined together, let not man put asunder.
Let not our hard-headedness, our hard-heartedness, our selfishness, our bitterness can't get in the way of the union the Most High had us have to teach us about what mercy and patience really looks like. It's no different from men in the camp. The Most High sends brothers to us, different type of brothers from different walks of life, to teach us about what? Mercy, long suffering, patience. The different people we come across, they bring out different elements of us. Maybe I'm not patient, and this brother shows me I'm not patient. Maybe this brother's conduct shows me I have a temper issue. Maybe the fact that he's not catching on fast exposes the fact that I'm a very impatient person. The Most High does that to us with the brothers He works with. The Most High also does that to sisters with their children. The children reveal what you lack inside. The Most High brings our loved ones together and gives us an opportunity to use the loved ones He's brought in our life to work on the things inside of us. A husband has to learn what patience is. A husband has to learn what long suffering is. Because we don't understand that. Until you are responsible for a wife and a family, then you can start learning what long suffering is. It's no different when you're dealing with brothers. When these brothers are rebelling and tripping every day, but they keep coming back to the school the next day, what are you doing? What does that mean? You're stuck. You got to deal with this shit. He ain't going nowhere. So you're going to argue every damn day long. Until what? Until the issues get fixed. There's no getting out of it. And this is why that bill of divorcement is a cop-out. Because it gives men an opportunity to get out and run and not face the problem every single day. This is what men having to be responsible in that covenant is so important. We can't just run when it's hard. We got to face these issues and deal with the problems every day. And men have to learn not to run from that. On top of the fact that the wives have to learn how to serve. It goes both ways. It says, and the truth is this, we can't pick and choose who to have compassion with. This is why we went to Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 15, where it says the one man loves the one and hates the other. There shouldn't be a reason why you hate one and love the other. The one that you hate, there's just issues in her that's bringing out the worst in you that you got to fix. This is still a youth. Listen, I shouldn't hate anybody.
Yeah.
Listen, Scripture says, if it be so, be at peace with all men. There should be no reason why I'm walking around here hating anybody. If I'm hating somebody, it's because there's hate in me. It ain't the person's fault. It's the hate in me. But people have to learn that. It takes time. And once again, this is why men have to have counselors themselves. This is why when you have a husband and he ain't trying to serve the Most High, he ain't trying to be subject to nobody, good luck. Is anybody teaching him? Ain't nobody counseling him? Ain't nobody guiding him the right direction? So it's going to take longer for him to figure things out. Mark 10, keep going.
Mark chapter 10 and verse 10. And in the house, his disciples asked him again of the same matter.
So the disciples want to get more understanding to what Christ was saying. Because everybody was under the assumption that you can cop out on that bill of divorcement thing. Read on.
And he saith unto them, whosoever shall put away his wife and marry another committeth adultery against her.
What that means is this. If you put your wife away, you're causing her to commit adultery.
Yeah.
That's what that is. It's not about a man can have more than one wife. But even when you read that in Deuteronomy, it says the first wife, what you do for her doesn't change, even though you get the second one.
Yeah.
But he says if you're just putting this woman away, you're putting her in a position to commit adultery. And that's how you're out of pocket with the Heavenly Father.
Yeah. Well, that's Romans 7:3.
Saying what?
What's the proof in that point? It was saying,
no, we're good on that. We're good on that. Let's continue in Mark 10.
Right. Mark chapter 10 and verse 11. And he saith unto them, whosoever put away his wife and marry another committeth adultery against her.
Mm-hmm.
And if a woman shall put away her husband and be married to another, she committeth adultery.
You see how it's still the woman is committing the adultery? The man can have another woman, but if she is put away from the husband, the man's still guilty because he's putting her in a condition to where if she chooses another man, it's on him.
yeah.
So once again, we're still dealing with marriage, we're dealing with divorces, we're dealing with all that, and it was based upon the hardness of our heart, that coldness in us, and that part of us that doesn't want to fight to fix the negative in us. Because all I can tell you is, even from experience, when things go bad, can you find the love in your heart to keep fighting for the person next to you? Can you see the good? Can you see enough good in bad situations to keep fighting for the person that at one time things were better? It still takes love. It still takes love and a part of you that's not going to just run and quit because things are difficult. But it's you learn this in the work when you're dealing with men every day to push past these thresholds of anger and frustration and parts you don't want to quit. But you got to take how we deal with men every day and that commitment to the brotherhood and use those lessons to teach us how to not to quit on the wife of our youth. This is about being blameless and not making difficult situations worse. So once again, this is still about how much love can you muster up to be considerate and to make this relationship and marriage work. And just to explain this from the term of how the Most High deals with us, it's the same thing. Read Jeremiah 3 in verse 8 through 15.
Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 8.
I will not get to this, bro. Let me get there. Okay. Jeremiah 3, verse 8 through 15. Yes, sir.
Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 8. It says, and I saw when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away and given her a bill of divorce.
So the Most High is like, listen, when Israel, the northern kingdom, committed adultery on me and was following other idols and religions and philosophies, he says, I, the Most High, gave the northern kingdom a bill of divorce. He said he quit us. Read on.
Yeah, her treacherous sister Judah feared not.
So he was like, I was married to both of these crazy broads. 9.5 tribes quit on me, so I quit. I cut her off, and his sister was just as bad. Read on.
But went and played the harlot also. And it came to pass, through the lightness of her whoredom, that she...
Now, real quick, read verse 8 again. I want to make sure I'm clear on this point. Read that again.
Jeremiah 3:8. And I saw, when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away, and given her a bill of divorce.
Stop. So, historically, did the Most High give the 9.5 tribes a bill of divorce? What historically did the Most High do to the 9.5 tribes?
Similar.
When you sit back here, go real quick, 2 Kings 17 and 23.
That's a good point to stop.
Hmm?
That's a good point to emphasize. Because
Yeah, people will sit back and say, well, Mosiah cuts away. How come I can't cut away? 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 23.
God. 2 Kings 17 and 23. Got it. 2 Kings 17, 23.
2
Come on,
Kings chapter
Go ahead,
17,
I got
verse
you.
23. Until the Most High removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants, the prophets. So is Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day.
So what ended up happening is Israel, the northern kingdom, got sent and taken out of Israel and sent to Assyria and to be captives in Assyria. That was how the Most High wrote Israel, the 9.5 tribes, a bill of divorce. He sent them out of his sight. Temporarily, though. Let that verse go and jump to Isaiah 56 and 8. Isaiah 56 and 8.
Isaiah chapter 56, verse 8.
Let me make sure I get there too. 56 and Isaiah 56 gives you a breakdown of what's going to happen when Christ comes back during the time of the kingdom. Read on.
Isaiah 56 and 8. The Lord power, which gathered the outcasts of Israel, saith, Yet will I gather others to him, beside those that are gathered unto him.
This verse is explaining that he's going to gather all those 9.5 tribes that he has scattered away in 2 Kings 17 and 23. And he's going to bring them scattered Israelites back to him. Why am I bringing this up? Did the Most High really give Israel a bill of divorce? Or did he give us a temporary bill of divorce and allowed us to come back to him? That's what he did.
Which is called separation.
That's a separate. That's the point.
To be clear, when it comes to Muslims say I gave her a bill of divorce, then I take it back.
No.
No. We're talking about he created, since you don't want to live by these principles and this ethics in Israel, then go to Assyria and be a slave in Assyria. That's called a separation.
And then maybe you'll learn to appreciate it.
Come.
That's what he did to Israel. What I'm saying is, even the Most High didn't cut off his people when he was angry with them. When the 9.5 tribes trespassed against him, he created distance, always with the mindset that he was going to reconcile. That's the point, and that's a very important point to be conscious of, because this is how the Most High expects us to deal with our family. If you're going to correct and make if you're correcting and space is needed and chastisement is needed, it's not wicked to create space, but it's why you create the space. It's why you create the discipline, the distance, the correction. Why do you correct? You correct with the intention to reconcile. I see brothers sit back here and there's space between the relationships, and the people are getting crueler and crueler and crueler with the distance. That's not what it's supposed to be. If it's that bad, and don't forget, this is Israel committing adultery. This is adultery. We're not talking about working on this marriage when there's adultery in the picture. That's up to y'all. But spiritually, he's like, Israel did the worst they could, but I'm not going to give up on it. I'm not saying that, because even Christ said that. Outside of adultery, there's no reason that this can't be worked out. So if a person is committing adultery, listen, I ain't going to tell you to tolerate that crap. That's insanity. If you want to, that's up to you. But what am I trying to explain? I'm trying to explain the Most High, through his example, didn't give up on Israel. And if the Most High didn't give up on Israel, why are we giving up on our responsibility? Israel is his wife. If the Most High didn't give up on his wife, the example was for us to work through our issues with our wives. Let that go and go back to Jeremiah 3.
Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 8.
Yeah, read verse 8 again from the top.
Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 8. And I saw, when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away and given her a bill of divorce. Yet her...
Now hold on. So read hold that, jump to verse 20. Then we're going to come back to verse 8.
Jeremiah 3 and 20. It says, surely as a wife treacherously departed from her husband, so have ye dealt treacherously with me, O house of Israel.
So he's letting us know we have acted like a treacherous woman to the Most High. And the Most High is showing us through his actions what not giving up on your wife looks like. Now, I just said, I am not advocating a man having to tolerate adultery. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just using this explanation to show what mercy and love and patience looks like. And when things look bad with your wife, doesn't give you an excuse to cop out and run because it's hard. Because it looks like she's not going to change. Because you see uncleanliness in her. You're going to see uncleanness in every woman you marry. Every relationship you come across, you're going to see bad. That's not a reason to quit. So, continue in verse 8.
Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 8. It says, and I saw, when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away and given her a bill of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played the harlot also. And it came to pass through the lightness of her whoredom that she defiled the land, and committed adultery with the stones and with stocks.
Idolatry. Read on.
And yet, for all this, her treacherous sister Judah hath not turned unto me with her whole heart, but feignedly, saith the Lord.
So what he's saying is, the 9.5 tribes completely turned their back on the Most High. Judah has been half-heartedly serving the Most High, with their heart really given to idolatry, but they're feignedly just serving the Most High. So Judah the wife is giving Israel, or the Most High, half of their spirit. Isn't that kind of familiar sometimes in marriage? When the wife just gives a little bit of her heart, but her heart ain't really committed to fixing what's inside of you. The crazy thing is, the Most High wasn't as harsh on Judah as he was on 9.5. Why? They were still giving a little to the Most High. When you read throughout all the kings, there were still kings that were trying. It was sporadic. There were kings and people in Levi that were trying to do right. Then you had bad kings and bad Levi, good kings, bad kings, good kings. So because there was good and bad, the Most High wasn't quick to cut them off. He only cut off Judah when they just stopped trying altogether. What am I trying to explain? Even the Most High is judging properly in the two different marriage connections between the 9.5 tribes and the southern kingdom. You're seeing that the Most High had more patience with Judah because they were trying more. They were trying to stay on point more. And the Most High was able to recognize their effort, even though it was a feigned effort. It wasn't that feigned effort was better than the effort that the 9.5 tribes gave. And because of that, he gave them more what? Time. All it shows is the Most High is giving us a template on what patience and mercy looks like. How to give a person time. You give a person time weighing into the scales the good and the bad? Can I consider the good that she's trying? Can I consider her efforts? Can I consider the sacrifices she's trying to make? And weigh that with the bad that I see, obviously? And can I make a proper judgment on this person based on both sides? Because that's what the Most High is doing with us. Continue.
Verse 11 now.
Yeah.
It says, And the Most High said unto me, The backsliding Israel hath justified herself more than treacherous Judah.
Mm-hmm. So he's saying the 9.5 was worse than the south, Judah. The 9.5 tried less. That's why I kept working with Judah longer. Read on.
Verse 12. Go and proclaim these words toward the north, and say, Return, thou backsliding Israel, saith the Lord, and I will not cause mine anger to fall upon you. For I am merciful, saith the Lord, and I will not keep anger forever.
This Israel is talking about the southern kingdom. 9.5 is already gone. You're in time of Jeremiah. So he's like saying, listen, change and fix your stuff now and give me more of your spirit before you have to follow what the 9.5 tribes are going through. Read on.
Only acknowledge thine iniquity, that thou hast transgressed against the Lord thy power, and hast scattered thy ways.
What verse are you at? Okay.
And
Read the middle of verse 12.
Yes, sir.
Return, thou backsliding. Yes.
Return, thou backsliding Israel, saith the Most High, and I will not cause mine anger to fall upon you. For I am merciful, saith the Most High, and I will not keep anger forever.
He's constantly saying that I'm angry, I'm correcting, but the Most High's intention is to not hold anger forever. Can we as husbands learn from this pattern of communication? Can you be frustrated but not hold that anger and grudge long term? Can you not let bitterness? It's one thing to be angry, but with men, we'll be angry and then that bitterness seeps in. And then when that bitterness seeps in, we can't see anything good in that wife. And that's when things start falling apart. For husbands, it's all about, can I keep fighting to see the good in the person that keeps falling short of your expectations? And then can I sit back here and judge my wife based upon how I want the Most High to judge me? I want the Most High's mercy. I want the Most High's understanding and compassion. Then I got to give that if I want that. This will allow that wife more time to make the adjustments she needs, and that would allow the Most High to intercede. If the Most High sees your mercy and your patience and you working on what's inside of you, then the Most High will sit back here and defend you through the Most High's thing in them. Half the time, you got to be blameless so they can see themselves. Because the more you react to that sister's negative, then all of a sudden you're the reason why she stays negative. We learn this dealing with men. You got to eliminate your excuses, your negative. The quicker you eliminate you being the reason, then they can see them. Let's finish this verse up. Verse 13.
Jeremiah 3:13. Only acknowledge thine iniquity, that thou hast transgressed against the Most High thy power, and hast scattered thy ways to the strangers under every green tree. And ye have not obeyed my voice, saith the Most High. Turn, O backsliding children, saith the Most High, for I am married unto you.
It goes back to this. Most like, I'm married to you. We're stuck in this. I'm not going nowhere. I'm just going to keep putting pressure until you change. And this is how a husband got to be. He got to correct, teach, be an example, figure out ways to get this person to be inspired. And if somebody's going to leave, it's them. This is what the Most High is showing us through the example he did for us. He said, I'm married to you. I'm just going to keep sending prophets. I'm going to keep sending people to teach you what I'm expecting of you. The beautiful thing about it is he's sending Jeremiah. He's sending Isaiah. He's sending different people that are bringing out the message, hopefully in a way that the people will see it. This is how you got to think in dealing with your wife. What do I got to do to get this person to see they got to change? How do I got to explain this to get this sister to process this situation? How do I got to adjust the message? Because we're supposed to do it with men, right? We got to teach different. We have different teachers, different approaches, different ways of going at people. You do that to give a person a way. Maybe they need to hear from this person, or from this perspective, or from this slant. Maybe a story can get a person to see. Maybe a counsel might work. Maybe sitting back here and what do I got to do to get this person to see that they got to fix what they got to fix. This is what the Most High is doing for us. He says, I'm married to you. You got to fix what you got to fix. And because I'm married to you, I'm going to show you love, and I'm going to do this for you. Read on. Read verse 15. Just jump from I am married unto you.
Jeremiah 3:15. And I will give you pastors according to mine heart, who shall feed you with knowledge and understanding.
The Most High is like, I'm going to have teachers that I'm going to inspire to feed you and develop you. Because obviously, in order for me to help, I can't just completely hyper-focus on your wickedness. I got to send solutions your way. I got to send help your way. I got to develop your way. I got to teach and help, bring people to help you. That's the key. So, I'm going to stop the class at that. I just want to make sure on the husband side, we understand that our bitterness is what gets in the way from our position of developing that wife. And as husbands, we can't get so upset that we lose perspective that we got to teach and develop and do whatever we got to do to get this sister or your wife to see how they have to change. The better we're merciful and eliminate our bitterness, the better we can help the person that we love the most. And if we can do that, the sister has a better chance. Now, sisters can put this together on top of their obligations of serving their husbands. The marriage at least has a fighting chance. I don't know if we're going to go emphasize this tomorrow. I doubt it. I'm not sure next week. We'll figure it out. But take that from this as far as the men not to allow bitterness and that hateful heart that we all have to get in the way of what the Most High brought together in the family. Are there any questions? We're going to let that go. Shalom Israel for tuning in. See y'all on Wednesday with Shalom. Shalom.